how do you get an importer or distributor? What are your brand's aspirations? Again, this comes back to a personal inquiry of your business, of your product, and you need, before you start to step into this market, I would advocate research your targets, do your homework. What's the shape of the distribution currently? Do they have similar products? What is the size of the sales force? How many accounts per salesperson? How do you gain traction?
Thank you for coming to this webinar, which is very, very important. So like we were discussing a moment before that, it's very important for all the brands to understand when they try to enter into the market. And the very important step is to navigate the landscape of importers and distributors. And that is what we are going to talk about. We have in-house Alistair with us. Just to give a little bit of a short intro. For me, I think we met Alistair in 2018. And he has been with us with London competitions from day one. He has helped us in terms of strategizing, in terms of content, in terms of us to know what is the right pulse of UK markets. He has more than 30 years of experience in UK alcohol industry, and he knows the buying and selling both the parts. So I think that makes him the right fit. And I think the more knowledgeable person in-house to share his insights with you on this webinar. And thank you so much, first of all, Alistair, for doing it for us. I think this is the right time, and it was very much needed. The real insight from the person who is actually in the industry for all the brands who are looking to come in the UK distribution.
Good morning, everyone, depending on where you are in the world, of course. I'm in the UK, and of course, the UK has got a very close relationship with alcohol, going back millennia, in actual fact. We love a drink. We love a drink in this country. Our oldest trading partner is Portugal, going back to the Middle Ages. And of course, that centered around port, going back. These days, it's an increasingly complex and legislated for market. And so I'm hoping that this webinar will provide you some insight and some guidance into success for your brand, because it is a tough market to navigate. So this is the agenda that I've put together for us today, marked by these 4 simple markers, so that hopefully you can find and navigate your way through this multi-layered, nuanced market much more simply. And so there's a variety of things here that hopefully provide you with some insight and start that ball rolling. If you're thinking of exporting, if you already are perhaps exported to the UK, but you're not happy, perhaps we can help out. And we'll touch on really all of the major aspects of how to export into this market. First of all, I thought I would just talk about why me. I mean, why? Ankita just demonstrated a little bit there, showed you a little bit, but I'm a veteran of over 35 years in the UK market. I know I don't look that old, but you know, and I've done all sorts of roles in this market: buying, selling, brand building, importing, marketing, setting up businesses. So you know, I understand the whole UK market, and I've been involved with brands from booths, Asda, from a supermarket perspective. I introduced Yellowtail to the UK for my sins, and Domain John Claude Mass. I've worked with all of the major supermarkets, multiples, and now I work extensively in the independent trade and wholesale trade as well. So I really have a holistic view of the UK market, and I've been involved with importing products from a long time ago, the early 90s. So yeah, quite a long time ago. I'm an M.B.A graduate from Henley Business School, and so what I can bring is a blend of experience and theory, and I'm here to help and guide. My contact details will be at the end of the presentation. So let's get into it about the UK market itself. This is from Ibis World, which is a market researcher, and it's their analysis, top line analysis of alcoholic wholesaling industry in the UK. Over the 5 years through 2023-24, the alcoholic beverage wholesaling industry has become increasingly saturated with a wide range of players entering the market. And I think that's really key here to understand. This is an intensely competitive market. Producers from around the world want to compete here, and there are more and more wholesalers, but less and less importers. And there's an important distinction there. And so the market has changed as it's become more and more legislated in this country. And so the tiers are beginning to emerge almost like the United States, but not in as visible a way. That means that any approach that you make to the UK market, if you're starting from scratch, you have to cut through the chaff. You have to do your homework. You have to have a USP as a brand, as a business, and your competitive market strategy is absolutely critical. Do you understand where your brand is in the context of the market? I think you've got to ask a lot of personal questions as well as a lot of questions of the market. And as you approach, I think you've got to be flexible and creative with your approach. If you have any sort of warm noises at all, then you have to come up with solutions that are going to work for each party. And just as a start place, your brand needs to be unique and desired by the market. You need to demonstrate that there is a good reason for consumers to demand this over this very busy market. And that's more than just a place. It's more than just, well, I'm unique because I come from X, Y, and Z place. You have to have many layers of that uniqueness. And you have to be able to demonstrate what your brand is adding to the market. If you've got to add some value, you've really got to cut through the chaff, and there is an awful lot of that in order to get your positioning absolutely correct and absolutely at the maximum value for what your brand, what you want from your brand. I've just posed 4 strategic questions here that I think are really useful to inquire yourself. They're very top line. Why do you want to enter the UK market? Have you got your strategic goals? Because those will guide you as you go forward. You need to be resilient as you go forward. You'll have lots of interesting questions, a lot of questions that you don't expect, as well as ones that you do expect. And keeping your in mind your goal, what you set out to achieve, I think is really, really important. And where do you want to expand to? Are you just looking at London, or are you actually looking at the whole of the British Isles? Have you taken into consideration Ireland as well? That's a thorny question in these days of post-Brexit as well. So you need to consider these things. When is the time right? Is the time right for your brand? Is the time right for the market? What is the arena that you're playing in? And how are you approaching that? Is it a good time to enter or not so good? Making that call is also important. And how are you going to enter this market? And that, of course, is all led by the actions and the information that you uncover. Fundamentally, an importer doesn't want also-rans. They want the most motivated, the most skilled, the smartest products there to help drive their business as a distributor as well. So you've got some key things, I think, to establish there and to answer and analyze for yourself and for your brand and for your business before you go forward. this is roughly how the market is made up, a value chain, if you like. You obviously start off with producers. You need an importer. It's a really important point to notice that any importer of alcohol has to be a UK VAT registered business. You can't just export to any old business that comes along in the UK market. It has to be UK VAT registered, otherwise you're illegal. And I would suggest that that's not a great way to start off being illegal. And then the market roughly splits into two sectors: off license and on license. And it's usually a sort of 60-40 split. 60% in favor of off license in terms of volume, 40% in terms of on license, and the reverse in terms of value. So immediately you have a question to answer. Where do you want to target your market, and how are you going to approach this? Are you just going to go for supermarkets? Yeah, you can get your volume, but it'll be, the life of your brand is going to be low, and your average retail price is going to be low. So you've got to answer some key questions there about how long do you want to be in this market? Is it tactical, or is it, a longer term question? And I think these days an importer it can just be that, an importer. Who's selling your product? You've got to actively sell your product, and who are you selling to? And that's why we've increasingly seen ambassadors become a part of the market, who are plugging in really to the side of the importer distributor model to ensure that you get focus on your brand. Really important point to take on board. I would suggest that a good place for inquiry to start is know your market. This is a reasonable segmentation of the UK market and how it's split up. And you'll see that we are dominated by beer, wine and spirits, taking up the majority shares of the market. And knowing your sector of the market and how where you fit into that, I think is absolutely critical in demonstrating your desire and your motivation to actually get into to distribution. So you must arm yourself with as much market knowledge and market facts. Facts, not hearsay as well. There's a lot of hearsay that goes around this market, and be able to demonstrate that really quickly, and why you fit into that particular place. Just some UK trends for the market to perhaps take note of. In-home drinking is now only 53% out of home, whereas during the 2010s it was 63%. So we're drinking less outside of the home, and that's obviously partly driven by COVID, which forced us to drink at home. Hospitality shut down for a period of time, and has really had a struggle to recover, and arguably hasn't really fully recovered, in the sense that there are outlets shutting down around the UK for hospitality. I don't want to paint a negative picture, because hospitality is still a very vibrant industry in this country. These are questions of emphasis. These are nuances. They're not wholesale changes. E-commerce, of course, is a very important part of the business, and the UK is the biggest e-commerce market for alcohol in the UK, in Europe, and I think that will continue. The intensity of the number of people living here, the expense of getting around this country, of distributing product around this country, are really important points and things to really take consider of. And that's why so many people are driven to e-commerce. It's much more convenient, it's much easier, and sometimes it's much cheaper to buy on e-commerce than it is to buy through traditional stores. It's a really just a kind of a bit of anecdotal feedback, if you like. If you walk into a supermarket today in the UK, you'll notice the fruit and veg aisles are much more scant of stock than they would have been 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the stock would have been groaning on the shelves, you know, wonderful displays. Today, it's a thin top layer, and that's mostly driven because of e-commerce. So e-commerce is changing this market dramatically, and so it is quite different. Third wave producers is really about this generation of, it's driven by the market really, of Generation Z and millennials who are looking for authenticity and integrity in their food and drink offer. Less but better marks this trend, and I think this is really important, that you have to have something that is authentic and with integrity if you're going to create longevity in this this market. And I think we should never forget that when we're talking about alcoholic products, we're talking about something that is experiential. Don't ever, if you think you can just convey and market online and walk away, I think you're making a very big mistake. You have to end up with a glass in somebody's hand and somebody saying, "Oh, that's great, that's terrific, I'm really enjoying that." In terms of the individual areas, beer remains a strong preference. Wine is most often consumed drink in this country, although the volume in the last 12 months has stepped off quite a bit in terms of how much we've imported. And spirits market is surprisingly perhaps still strong, driven a lot by cocktails. Low and no is growing. And a little marker for a sector that I'm involved in, the cider sector. The fastest growing sector within cider is the craft sector, so where products are artisanally made. So that's a kind of a starter for 10 in terms of how these markets are shaping up. How do you get an importer or distributor? What are your brand's aspirations? Again, this comes back to a personal inquiry of your business, of your product, and you need, before you start to step into this market, I would advocate research your targets, do your homework. What's the shape of the distribution currently? Do they have similar products? What is the size of the sales force? How many accounts per salesperson? How do you gain traction? All of these are really important questions that you can ask of each distribution company that you size up as perhaps an opportunity. And you can do a lot of this work online before you even have a conversation. There's a lot of questions you can ask before that. And how does their financial model work? Can you test it against your model? Ultimately, you're looking to answer that question. Why does your brand work for the UK market? You're looking to put that into your USP. Marketing and communications, which of course are critical. You know, there's kind of two levels of marketing. There's marketing to attract your importer, distributor, first of all, and there's marketing that is post having attracted your importer and distributor, having got your platform. And I would say that marketing is absolutely vital. So, you know, in the first instance, what is your budget for marketing? Do you have one? Have you created one? Because if you haven't, I would suggest that that would be a great place to start, because marketing is critical, and marketing really covers a gamut of whole things. Yeah, it's anything that is communication led. Do you have a 30, 60, 90 second elevator pitch? You know, think about yourself being on a phone perhaps to initially introduce this idea to your buyer. You know, you have to be engaging and captivating like that in a second, because otherwise, frankly, these guys have a huge selection of products in front of them. They're approached on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. You know, what's going to motivate them? They want something that's going to really excite the market. Have you got that? How are you doing your research on importers and distributors? There's plenty of opportunities available. Social media, influencers, LinkedIn, trade fairs. All of these things are great ways of building your network, building your connections, of being able to have the conversations. And just a piece of kind of, again, anecdotal advice, I'd never go in saying, I want to sell this. You've got to kind of go in, I'm looking for your help. What, how, you know, can you help me understand this market? Can you help me? I'm looking for a bit of guidance on that. If you go in with an overt pitch, I would imagine that you're going to probably turn people off more than on. Lots of opportunities, but marketing and communications are critical. And never forget this experiential point. The glass in hand, along with your story, are really your best sales techniques. And do consider then along the way how you're going to fit in the social media, the events, your distributor activity, and does it equal return on investment? And what do you expect from that? You have to build all of these things into your plan, and so it's worthwhile, I think, spending a good time before you approach the market in actually building a plan, even if, you know, all plans become irrelevant almost the day after you've written them. Brand story, packaging, and design are absolutely critical, because the market in this country, being led by younger consumers, is demanding authenticity and integrity from its food and drink products. Then your brand story really matters. If you don't have a brand story, you don't have a product, really. You're just a commodity. It's just sugar. It's just another big anonymous product. No, you've got to have identity, and it's critical that it's truthful, credible, and demonstrable. It's not just a question of sitting there and dreaming up a story. Your brand story has to have real meaning and real depth. And the design equally is, and this is often talked about within London competitions, design needs to reflect your brand's values as well. So that you've got a common thread and string all the way through, from the start where you're producing your product all the way to the end of the market. Of course, packaging needs to be fit for purpose. Innovation is always desirable in this market. Let's not forget that new sells. I used to be a buyer at a supermarket, Asda in the UK, and in the late 90s, and we used to reckon that if we sent out new collars with a range of products to the stores, it would add on 2% of sales just because it had the word new on it. So new sells, and new is a mantra in the market still today. Environmentally friendly, of course, is a really key word. Sustainable. You know, think about the environmental footprint of your packaging as well as your product. These are also important. And how can you authoritatively back that up as well? You've got to be able to demonstrate it. It's not just a question of saying, yes, it's sustainable. Have the evidence there as well. And don't forget about labelling being illegal as well. Now we are out of Brexit, so out of Europe and the EU, then our labelling laws are changing. So you do need to check that you need to have an importer statement on now. And so often in countries of origin, there are export agencies that can help with those things from a local perspective. Network is everything. You know, people buy people in a large part, and being able to connect with the right people who can make those decisions, absolutely critical. Of course, BTN and London competitions are a great way of doing that as well. And it's your way of finding help in pitching to the right people. And I couch that word particularly, again, it's about finding help. It's not about selling, even though it might be beneath it. It's actually about finding the help. And understanding, are they decision makers? If not, then who are the decision makers? And it's also true, as with any networking, it might not be the person you're speaking to, but they might know somebody beyond in their network who can help you and help you achieve what your goals are. So multi-layered it is. Logistics, a very important part of the whole thing. Of course, I can't underestimate the importance of logistics in this country. Distribution is a very complex thing. We have very complex distribution networks, and it's important to understand how your product ends up in the final customer's hand. What is that final journey? The last mile is always known to be the most expensive one, and so understand the logistics of a distributor is important. But from a back end point of view, can you supply what you could say you can supply? If your market suddenly turns on and you've got a big demand, have you got the resource to supply that market that you're actually targeting at? Do consider that. You know, supermarkets can wipe out a small producer's production in a nanosecond. If that leaves you with no market in your other markets, then you know, it's probably done more damage than it has done good, because the supermarket's going to buy at a low price. So you've got to balance that. If you don't have scale right now, will you have scale, and can you demonstrate this? Again, very important to know that that the businesses can grow, that the distribution can grow, and to what level and how fast it can grow. These are also important questions that good buyers will be asking. Have you got your labels ready to go? Because if you do find an importer and they want to import right now, then you've got to have all of that ready. And having a good back office resource is also important. I spoke to a producer in France just the other day, and he said, you know, I really want to go forward, but it's impossible for us right now. We've been trying to recruit an export manager for a year. So I think this is a global picture around the world. Recruiting people of quality, of education and experience has become a major issue, and so having that back office resource, I think, is also important. Exporting is a complex thing, and understanding the export process, I think, is also important. If you can't secure an importer per se who's going to then distribute your products, can you use an importing platform, an importer, to at least bring your product in, get it to market, and then you can sell on from there? It means employing sales resources in the market, but you can do that providing that importer will agree to bring your product in. It's an important little nuance that you could actually think about if you want to just have a start. So in summary, objectives and strategy are really important to retain focus on your goals. Keep coming back to them. What are your goals? Have they changed at all? And I would suggest be really broad with that objective, and in the first instance as well. Broad but specific. Don't be so narrow that it's changing every 5 minutes. That's just going to waste your time and also misdirect you. You've got to have that objective in focus. Be certain that there is a market, because this market is very full of a lot of producers who are competing to sell in this market. We are a market of choice. Try and find the right people to work with, people who understand your product, what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to achieve it. Try and analyze the strength of your partners as well in what you're trying to achieve. And I would say that personality is a small part of that. It's about analyzing the actual the objective strengths. Invest in your marketing, have your elevator pitch ready, understand the detail, and more than anything, be resilient, be determined, be creative and flexible. If you get it in your first hit, you're a very, very lucky person. If you, what we often find is this is about reiteration, time and time again, and that's the vital thing with things, building in things like social media, LinkedIn. You know, it's reiteration. Keep going. Don't let the situation defeat you. If those objectives are strong enough, you'll carry on and you'll achieve it. That's me.
Thank you, Alistair. So I think a couple of things which, as a brand, I am sure in the summary that was the best thing to recap. But a couple of things which even I came across, and something which I think all the brands should also note it down, is cutting through the shop. As we know, UK is a tough market; it's a competitive market. So we have one question which is completely related to it, Alistair, and that is when you are talking about have your USPs ready, have your unique value propositions ready. Can you help our brands to know what is the right way to identify and to articulate these USPs so that it becomes easy for them to navigate with importers and with distributors?
So I think there's two initial elements of that. First of all, know your market. If you're in the beer market, what are the trends in the beer market? What's going on there? That makes my brand relevant to that. But then I think you've got to go on and understand how that fits into the overall picture as well. What are the specifics around my brand that are going to add value to that particular market, and why? I think it's also important to point out that beer, spirits, wine have different facets as just pure operational markets. How the beer market operates is different to how the wine market is operating. And so whilst you have composite wholesalers, they have a different approach than a wine wholesaler, and a different approach again to a spirits wholesaler. I know within the beer market, for example, it's very difficult to get a start unless you're trading with a number of accounts to start with. So you've got a real chicken and egg situation to actually unravel even before you find an importer. So it's it can be quite tricky. How do you get that start then? And that's what I'm saying is about looking for that help, reaching out and finding those people that you can network with that can give you the guidance of how you step around those issues. I mean, the things that would be guiding me are any food and drink research about the UK market today will tell you about authenticity and integrity. Yeah. That's what people want from a food and drink proposition. And so therefore, there's an initial inquiry about your brand. Is it authentic? Does it have integrity?
Do you still think, Alistair, sustainability will still be counted as a USP, especially if a brand is coming from overseas and entering in UK market? And we know sustainability is going big time in UK. So do you think that would also add as a USP?
Yes, I do. However, I think it always underscores quality and taste in the first instance. I don't think sustainability is a front foot selling proposition. It's an underline. It's like being organic or biodynamic. Right. These are important attributes to your product, of course, right. but I'm not. They're not reasons that people buy. People buy alcoholic drinks because they're having fun. This is a consumer market, and they want to be entertained. We're in the entertainment industry, first of all.
Thanks. So when I saw your slide, which you briefed on marketing, we saw right elevator pitch, we saw right social media, but there was a bottom line that you briefed and you introduced, and that was experiential learning, experiential drinking. So to a brand, can you dissect that, how before entering in the market, they can disclose more about this experiential learning? What do you mean by that? So for example, if I'm a brand and if I really want them to understand what is the story behind my brand is, what is I want to convey when it's going to come to UK distribution, how should I do it? Like, what is the best way for me to do it?
This market is experiential. And what I mean by that is that in order to enjoy this market, you have to experience it. As a consumer, then you're drinking it. It's like the hospitality industry, if you like, with food. You know, if you're going to enjoy it, then you have to consume the food and say, oh, that was really great. That was really good. The alcoholic sector is largely not one of commoditization. It's not. We're not just buying and selling a commodity. We know exactly the four square capabilities of that product, and we've bought it for £10, and we expect it to do X, Y, and Z. And once it's done, that's it. That's its only function. No, this is more aesthetic, and people have got to appreciate it. People want to appreciate it. The less but better generation demonstrates this. You know, people want to drink less alcohol, but they want to drink better quality. What does better quality mean? It's up to us to describe that in terms that they would want to have it described to them. And that's framed by authenticity and integrity. But people have got to experience it. It's like if I go along and try and sell a bottle of wine or a bottle of orchard wines, as I'm the market I'm involved with, selling it without a sample is, I mean, what? How do I do that? You know, if I'm not tasting it, how do I understand the quality of it? So that's what I mean by experiential. It's you know, and you have to find ways in which people can experience your brand. Now that can be as simple as a few bottles in a case that you bring into this market and you stand at a trade fair and you taste it out with people. I mean, that's perfectly possible. You don't need to have an importer to do that. So you've got to find the ways of actually landing the product so that people can experience it. And I realize that sounds like a nebulous challenge, like I'm trying to grab a cloud, but that is very simply the difference.
Understood. Thank you. So we have got one question. We have two more. So we'll take the first one. It says, does the bio certificate make significant difference in UK for the possible price of product like craft cider?
I think it makes a marginal difference, or it could make a marginal difference. But it's not going to be huge. I think I'm going to revert back to my earlier answer about organic or biodynamic. I think it's an important feature that you can include in the description of your product, and it describes your values as a brand and therefore forms some value relationships potentially with consumers and also perhaps importers as well. So I think there might be a small premium, but I wouldn't major on it. I think it's an underscore. What's important, first of all, is the quality of your product and the taste of your product and how it performs in the glass.
So we have one more question, Alistair. It says that my brand's first order is being placed. What sort of ongoing efforts that I have to make consistently to make sure my sales momentum is on? So I think they're going to ask that if they have placed an order and they have already found an importer or a distributor, what sort of continuous thing that they have to do to help them? Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things you can do. I think it depends on the importer themselves. What is the nature of this importer? Are they merely just an importer and they bring the stock in and they sit there and look at the stock in the warehouse, or are they actively selling? How are they interacting with their sales force? How do you network into their sales force? Can you do a presentation for the sales team? Can you incentivize the sales team? Can you do ride-alongs and go and visit customers with the sales team? Can you do a trade fair? It depends on what product it is as well as to where you go. Do they do a trade fair? Often importers will do their own portfolio tastings, is what they'll call. And you know, if you can be a part of that, that's a good way of meeting the sales force, but also meeting some of their customers and getting some feedback on the products and tasting it and selling it. Social media, important part of how you can keep that network open and the channels open. LinkedIn, important part of being able to connect, particularly probably with the sales force of that importer. advertising itself, how big's your marketing budget? Really, we're coming into now, if you want to do some general advertising, what's the best way of doing that? What's the market that you're aiming at? We're coming back to the objectives and the goals here, and how you strategize for that. I think there's a lot of things you can do. It depends on the product that you're with. It depends on the importer that you're with. It depends on the structure of the team. It depends on how they sell. What sells for them right now? What makes a difference for them? Inquire of the distributor, the importer distributor, what is successful for them? What does success look like for them? Because your goals might be different. I think you've got to do a lot of questioning about those things in order to arrive at your sense-made answer, as opposed to just saying, well, do this, this, and this, and it'll work. I think it's much more complicated than that.
I think for a couple of months, it's good to do a proper handhold in terms of understanding who your importer is, what sort of, as you said, like how exactly do they like to work, and what are their agendas when it comes to selling a new brand or something. So I think back and forth for a couple of months is something which will help anybody to understand the importer and the process of them selling it for you.
I've been with wine distributors that say, well, it can take 20 years to make a brand successful.
True. Yes.
What's your time scale? If your time scale is a year and they're saying 20, you've got a mismatch.
Yes. Correct. Very interesting question that we have got, Alistair, and it was also lingering in my mind. So when we see the distribution, when we see the segment of beverage in UK, we see a bigger segment of beer, right? But if I have to ask you, is there a future or is there a scope for global beers to enter in UK market? Or is it more like how wines are in the France, that they already have their domestic beer supply, they already have imported, or it's a saturated market, just that people like to drink and there is a big scope for people to drink beer, but globally for brands to enter, it's tough. So what exactly it is for the beer brands?
I think we're at a moment of big change.
Okay.
And I think we can't underestimate the impact of what's going on in the Middle East right now towards that. The offences against the Houthis and by America and Britain launching missiles to defend those shipping channels are actually, causing us questions about international trade. And how do we buy more international products, or do we buy more locally? So I think there is a kind of a big top line thing there that's going on, that again, you need to inquire about yourself. But fundamentally, British people like to go abroad. We like to be a little bit adventurous, and we like to explore the boundaries. I think we're a bit different than the United States in that regard, which tends to be more parochial. Most people in this country own a passport, and they will use it. Certainly, COVID has changed some of that, I think, a little bit, but nonetheless, we are a country that likes to explore. So we like, therefore, foreign experiences, and we like to say, we drunk that beer in Spain, we drunk that beer in Egypt, in Turkey. I mean, all over the world, and that's why part of the reason why you see all these beers in this country. I don't see that really stopping. I think we are a country that likes to explore, a country of people that likes to explore and likes to have different products from different parts of the world. That being said, it seems that the craft market in this country is changing as well. The craft beer market is changing, and there's been some personality changes in the craft beer. Craft beer used to be sort of nearly always over 5% alcohol, wacky flavors, things that are really different. And I've detected that that's changed a little bit. So there might be opportunities there, but it's, I think, more about specialism than it is about huge volumes. One of the things we observe in the cider market in this country is that 8 out of 10 of the 10 top brands of ciders in this country are going backwards in terms of market share. I think that's because people are turning away from low value, high volume, low quality products and turning towards more high quality, high value products that are genuinely artisanal. What we euphemistically call the craft sector, but craft is a bit of a difficult word because it sort of means anything to anybody. You know, anybody can have something that's craft, but it might be just made from concentrate in terms of cider. So it depends on which sector of the market you're in, but I would be thinking about that authenticity and integrity piece, and look at the current players. Who are the players that you admire in the market? What are they doing, and what are they doing that says, oh, these guys are doing something really different and actually exciting the market?
Super. So coming to quality, we have one more question, Alistair. It's asking that is bottle is still a sign of a quality when we talk about cider, or like wine in UK, or cans are becoming more popular, like how the can culture has gone up in USA?
Well, of course, I can preface my remarks by saying the UK and the USA markets for what we would call as wines from apples, pears and other fruits are very different. The USA has no real history, no baggage for cider. And so cans can make a step in the USA market quite easily. Whereas in this country, ciders have been packaged in cans forever, and they signature, generally speaking, a low quality, low value, commoditized product. So horses for courses, definitely bottles in this country, in the UK. However, cans, I think, is certainly possible in the USA. I think that could be deemed innovation in the USA.
So when I was looking to the consumer and how consumer drinks, and the points which you mentioned, that what do they see? They see label, they see packaging for sure, they see the story. So does competition as an event helps existing and new brands to enter in UK market? Because I also read networking is important, but how will you network people unless your brand is not in front of them?
I see where you're coming from and totally agree. Yeah, competitions are a great way of introducing a product to a market and getting a place. I mean, it's not a bad statement to say, look, I won a gold medal at London Wine Competition. I think competitions are a very good way to be included in your marketing setup. And I think there's every reason to make sure that competitions play a part in your marketing toolbox. And I think it's a good way of getting familiar with the market and what's going on.